My world is built on rules. They are the architecture of my success, the steel beams that hold my life upright. Rule 1, do not show weakness. Rule 2, do not confuse kindness with permission. Rule 3, do not, under any circumstances, look at your 23-year-old intern as anything other than a temporary asset. His name is Leo, and he is a test of my entire foundation. He has that easy grace of youth, a body that hasn't yet learned the weight of the world. But his eyes are older. They are the color of a stormy sea, and they watch me, not with the furtive, nervous glances of the other juniors, but with a quiet, unnerving intensity. As if he's trying to read the fine print on my soul. This business trip to Lisbon was my idea, a final trial before I consider him for a permanent position. The city is all sun-bleached stone and azure sky, a stark contrast to the gray corporate landscape we've left behind. It changes the air, makes it thinner, harder to breathe. We are in a conference room that smells of old coffee and new ambition. The Portuguese clients are a wall of nodding suits, but my focus keeps fracturing, pulled to the corner of the room where Leo sits. He's taking notes, his pen moving with a swift, sure confidence. I'm presenting our quarterly strategy, my voice a calibrated instrument of command, but I feel the heat of his gaze on the side of my face like a physical touch. When I finish, there are questions. One of the senior partners, a man named Silva with 2 white teeth, directs a complex, borderline hostile query about our long-term risk assessment. Before I can eviscerate him with my reply, Leo speaks. His voice is calm, a low baritone that shouldn't belong to someone his age. He doesn't look at me for validation. He looks directly at Silva, and with 3 succinct sentences, he dismantles the man's argument, backing it up with data I didn't even know he had memorized. The room goes quiet, impressed. My heart does a strange, lurching thing in my chest. Pride, I tell myself. Professional pride. After the meeting, the clients file out, clapping me on the shoulder. We are alone in the conference room, the hum of the air conditioner suddenly deafening. I am gathering my tablet, my notes, my composure. That was impressive, I say, not looking at him. You were prepared. I listen, he replies simply. I finally risk a glance. He's standing by the window, the Lisbon sun carving out the sharp lines of his shoulders. He's not smiling in triumph. He's just watching me. That same deep, unsettling focus. You always seem to be listening, Leo, to things that aren't being said. A ghost of a smile touches his lips. The most important things usually aren't. He moves to hand me a folio of documents I'd left on the table. Our fingers brush. A simple professional accident. But a jolt, sharp and white-hot, travels up my arm, settling somewhere deep in my stomach. I pull my hand back as if burned, the papers rustling between us. The projections, Ms. Thorne, he says. His voice doesn't waver, but I see it. A flicker in those stormy eyes. He felt it too. The crackle in the air, the live wire. I can hear the soft intake of his breath, see the subtle pulse at the base of his throat. The air is thick with the unsaid. I am his boss. I'm 16 years his senior. I am a fortress, and he is a quiet, persistent knock at the gate. Thank you, Leo, I say, my tone a sheet of ice over a raging river. That night, we have dinner on a cliffside terrace overlooking the ocean. It's a working dinner, or it's supposed to be. The white tablecloth flutters in the breeze, and the lanterns cast long, dancing shadows. The salt-kissed air tangles in my hair, and the setting sun sets his profile on fire, turning the edges of him to gold. We discuss the day, the clients, the next steps. The professional script is a lifeline, but then there's a lull, filled only by the distant crash of waves and the clinking of cutlery from another table. He puts his wine glass down. Why this? He asks. I blink. Why what? All of it. The late nights, the constant battle. What made you choose this life? The question is so personal, so direct, it slices through my defenses. I am so startled I answer honestly. The wine, the ocean, his eyes, they are a truth serum. Control, I say, the word leaving my lips before I can cage it. It was always about control. He doesn't smile. He doesn't look pitying. He just nods, as if I've handed him a key to a locked room inside me. It must be exhausting. The statement is so simple, so devastatingly accurate, it steals my breath. No one has ever seen that before. They see the power, the sharp suits, the unyielding decisions. They see Eliza Thorne, the Titan. They don't see the architect, the one who built the Titan from scratch to survive. They don't see the cost. I have to look away from him, out at the dark, churning sea. I feel seen, and it is terrifying. Later, walking back to the hotel along a cobblestone path lit by old-fashioned street lamps, the formality of the dinner finally ebbs. The silence between us is different now, charged with the confessions of the evening. I am hyper-aware of him walking beside me, the solid presence of him, the scent of his clean, simple cologne cutting through the salty air. My heel catches on an uneven stone. It's a tiny loss of balance, a momentary fracture in my composure. A gasp escapes me. His hand is instantly on my elbow, steadying me. His grip is firm, warm. It doesn't let go. We stop. The world narrows to this point of contact, his skin on mine. The sound of the distant waves is a frantic echo of my heartbeat. I can feel the heat of him through the thin silk of my blouse. I am held. The sensation is so foreign, so utterly disarming. I am always the one holding everything together. Now, I am being held. I look up, and he's already looking down at me, his stormy eyes dark with something that is no longer just professional admiration. It's a question, a challenge, a heat that mirrors the one coiling low in my own belly. My rules scream in my head, a distant alarm. Pull away. Re-establish the distance. Make a joke. Be the boss. But for one endless, terrifying second, I don't. I just stand there, anchored by his hand, lost in his gaze. I see the man in him, not the boy. I see a quiet strength that mirrors my own, and a tenderness that could utterly undo me. The space between our bodies feels charged, alive, a magnetic field pulling us closer. He is the one who lets go first, his fingers uncurling slowly, reluctantly, as if parting from me required a physical effort. We should go in, he murmurs, but his voice is rough, strained, betraying the same turmoil raging inside me. We walk the last 100 yards to the hotel lobby in a silence that screams. We don't look at each other. We ride the elevator up, standing on opposite sides of the mirrored box, our reflections a study in tense, unspoken desire. The doors ping open on his floor. He steps out, then turns, his hand stopping the door from closing. He looks at me, one last, long look that seems to brand my soul. "Good night, Eliza," he says, and then he's gone. The elevator continues its ascent to my penthouse suite, but I am no longer in it. I am back on that cobblestone path, my skin still humming where he touched me. The rules are still there, written on the walls of my mind, but they feel different now. Fainter. We both know it. This is no longer harmless. The first rule has been broken, not by action, but by a silence that screamed, by a touch that lingered a second too long, by a look that saw too much, and the ashes of my control are already beginning to smolder. The morning after the touch on the path dawns with a brutal clarity. The Lisbon sun is a liar, painting the world in a cheerful golden light that feels like a mockery of the storm inside me. I dress with military precision, a severe black dress, my hair pulled into a tight knot, armor plating for the soul. The silk of my blouse from last night is folded away in a drawer, a relic from a more vulnerable time. Breakfast is a battlefield staged in the hotel's serene dining room. He is already there, at a table by the window. When I approach, he stands. It's a gesture of old-fashioned respect that feels impossibly intimate in this new, charged reality between us. "Ms. Thorne," he says, his voice carefully neutral. "Leo," I nod, taking the seat opposite him. The space between us across the white linen tablecloth is a chasm filled with everything we didn't say, everything we didn't do. I order coffee, black. He does the same. The silence is a physical weight. I can hear the clink of his spoon against his cup, the soft rustle of his suit jacket as he moves. I am hyper-aware of every minute detail, as if my senses have been dialed to a frequency that exists only for him. The meeting with the manufacturing team is at 10, I say, my voice sounding brittle to my own ears. "I need you to lead the presentation on the supply chain analytics." He looks up from his coffee, his stormy eyes meeting mine. There is no surprise, no hesitation, just that deep, unnerving calm. Of course, you're not going to question it. It's a significant responsibility. You wouldn't have asked if you didn't think I could handle it. He holds my gaze. You don't make mistakes about people's capabilities. The statement is a double-edged sword, slicing through the professional veneer and touching the raw, personal truth beneath. Don't you? The voice in my head taunts. Look at him. Is this about his capabilities or yours? The day is a special kind of torture. In the meeting, he is flawless. His voice is steady, his knowledge impeccable. He commands the room with a quiet authority that belies his age, a mirror of my own style, yet uniquely his. I sit back watching him, and the pride I feel is no longer purely professional. It is laced with a fierce, terrifying possessiveness. I see you, I think, as he deftly handles a difficult question. And you see me. And God, what are we going to do about it? Every interaction is a minefield. Him handing me a document, our fingers deliberately avoiding contact, our eyes meeting across a crowded conference table, the glance lasting a heartbeat too long, speaking volumes in the silent language we are building. The space between our bodies in the elevator seems to contract and expand with a life of its own, humming with a tension so thick it's a wonder the lights don't flicker. That evening, under the flimsy, transparent guise of reviewing the day's triumphant notes, we end up in my suite. The sprawling, minimalist living area feels suddenly, unbearably intimate. The city lights of Lisbon twinkle far below, a galaxy of indifferent witnesses. I pour us both a whiskey from the minibar, my movements precise, controlled. I hand him his glass. Our fingers don't brush this time. I am too careful, but the avoidance is its own kind of confession. A loud, screaming admission of the thing we are both trying so hard not to name. He doesn't sit. He stands by the floor-to-ceiling window, his silhouette a dark, defined cutout against the glittering night. The silence stretches, not uncomfortable, but alive, trembling with meaning. You never really answered my question last night, he says, his voice quiet, his back still to me. What happens when you don't want to be in control anymore? The question hangs in the air between us, bold and terrifying. It feels like he's reached inside my chest and wrapped his hand around my still-beating heart. That's not a luxury I can afford, I say, the words tasting like ash and cowardice. He turns then, slowly. The city lights halo his form, but his face is in shadow. His eyes 2 points of intense captured light. It's not a luxury, Eliza. It's a choice. The sound of my name on his lips, here in this private space, is a seismic event. It breaks something open inside me. The riptide I've been fighting since we arrived pulls harder, dragging me from the safe, familiar shore of my own rules. He takes a step closer. Then another. The room shrinks, the world outside the window blurring into insignificance. I can smell the clean scent of his skin, the faint, peaty whisper of whiskey on his breath, the sheer, overwhelming presence of him. He stops just an arm's length away. The air is charged electric. Tell me to leave, he whispers. It's not a plea. It's a dare. A challenge thrown at the feet of the Titan. It's him handing me the control he's just accused me of clinging to too tightly. Your move, his eyes say. Be the boss. Save us from this, or don't. My heart is a wild, frantic thing beating against the cage of my ribs. This is the line, the one we cannot uncross. I open my mouth. I form the word. Leave. It sits on my tongue, a bitter, lonely pill. Nothing comes out. His gaze drops to my lips, and it's my undoing. The glass in my hand feels impossibly heavy, a symbol of the weight I carry every day. I set it down on the glass table with a quiet, final click that sounds like a gunshot in the silent waiting room. That small, surrendering gesture is all he needs. He doesn't rush. He closes the distance with a slow, deliberate intent that steals the air from my lungs. He lifts a hand, and his knuckles brush a stray lock of hair from my cheek. The touch is feather light, yet it brands me. It's not a claim. It's a question, a reverence. A shiver racks my body, violent and uncontrollable. A small, broken sound escapes me, a gasp, a sigh, a sound of pure, unadulterated want I didn't know I was capable of making. His eyes darken, reading my complete and total surrender in that single, helpless noise. I've been losing my mind since the moment I walked into your office, he confesses, his voice raw, stripped bare. Your strength. God, it's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And I think it's okay to rest. Just for a minute. You can rest with me. His words don't unravel my resistance. They dissolve it. They don't speak to my power, but to the profound, bone-deep exhaustion that festered beneath it. He isn't trying to conquer me. He isn't asking me to be less. He's offering a harbor. A place where the armor can finally come off. My control doesn't shatter. It turns to ash, fine and weightless, carried away on the breath I finally release. I lift my own hand, my fingers trembling as I place them over his, holding his touch against my cheek. It's an answer, a permission, a surrender so complete I can no longer tell where my dominance ends, and this terrifying, glorious vulnerability begins. The last of the distance between us vanishes. The morning after is quiet. The Lisbon sun, no longer a liar but a witness, streams into the suite, painting dust motes gold in the still air. I wake with his arm draped over me, his breathing even and warm against my back. For a long, suspended moment, there is only peace. A profound cellular quiet I haven't known in decades. My body is soft and pliant, my mind blissfully empty. Then, the reckoning begins. It starts as a low hum in the base of my skull, a familiar, cold dread. As he sleeps, the voice in my head, the architect of my fortress, shrieks to life. What have you done? You've risked everything. Your career, your reputation, the respect it took you 20 years to build. He's a boy. This is a cliché. It will end in tears, and the tears will be yours. They always are. The narrative writes itself with brutal efficiency. The powerful, predatory older woman, the ambitious, naive young man. The world would feast on it, reducing the seismic shift inside me to a sordid office gossip story. I try to pull away, to retreat into the familiar, cold space of my own making. But his arm tightens around me just slightly. A silent, sleeping plea. Stay. On the flight home, the silence between us is different. It's no longer charged with anticipation, but with the heavy weight of the impending real world. The magic of Lisbon is sealed in the pressurized cabin, a beautiful fading dream. Back in the city, the gray buildings seem grayer, the pace more frantic. In the office, every glance from a colleague feels like an accusation. The HR manual I wrote myself seems to mock me from my bookshelf. I call him into my office a week later. The door clicks shut, sealing us in the place where this all began. I am standing behind my desk, my fortress desk, my armor of a sharp navy blazer back on. He stands before me, patient, steady, his hands tucked into the pockets of his trousers. He doesn't look like a boy. He looks like the man who held me while I slept. This can't happen again, Leo, I say, the words cold and sharp, forged in a week of sleepless nights and spiraling fear. It was a mistake, a lapse in judgment. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't look angry or hurt. He just looks at me, his stormy eyes seeing right through the performance, the polished wood, the power suit. Is that what it was? A lapse? He takes a step forward, placing his palms flat on my desk, leaning in. Not a threat. An invasion of the distance I'm trying so desperately to create. Or are you just scared? Tears prick the backs of my eyes. A humiliating hot pressure. I am laid bare. The Titan is trembling. Of course I'm scared. The confession is torn from me, raw and ragged. They'll say I took advantage. They'll say you're a toy. They'll reduce something that felt monumental into a cheap headline. I can't stand it. My voice breaks on the last word. A crack in the foundation. His expression softens, not with pity, but with a deep, aching understanding. Eliza, look at me. I force my eyes to his, my vision blurred. Do you really think I'm that fragile? That I don't know my own mind? That I don't know what I want? You're 23, I whisper, the number a weapon I turn on myself. And you're the strongest person I've ever met, he counters, his voice low and intense. But you don't have to be strong alone. The world will talk, let them. Their noise doesn't change what this is. He gestures between us. It doesn't change how I see you, and it doesn't change how you feel when you stop fighting it. He pushes off the desk and comes around to my side. He doesn't touch me. He just stands there, offering his presence as an answer to my fear. I'm not asking you to choose me over your career. I'm asking you to stop choosing your fear over yourself. The truth of his words hits me with the force of a physical blow. He was right. It was always about control, about building walls so high I couldn't be hurt. But the walls had become the prison. Letting him in wasn't a lapse. It was the first real choice I'd made for myself in years. Letting the world think what it wanted was the ultimate act of control. It was saying, "Your opinion does not govern my heart." A single tear escapes, tracing a hot path down my cheek. I don't wipe it away. I let it fall. I let him see it. He reaches out then, his thumb gently catching the next tear before it can fall. His touch is the same as it was in Lisbon, a reverence, an anchor. "I love you," he says, the words simple, clear, and utterly fearless. And I'm not going anywhere. The last of my resistance doesn't just break. It transforms. It melts under the warmth of his certainty, leaving in its wake not weakness, but a different kind of strength. A collaborative strength. A shared one. I don't say it back with words. Instead, I reach for his hand, lacing my fingers through his. The gesture is more intimate than any kiss we shared in the dark. It is a contract, a partnership, a choice. 6 months later, we are in my apartment on a Sunday morning. Sunlight floods the living room. He's on the floor, wrestling with a stubborn IKEA bookshelf instruction manual, a frown of concentration on his face. I'm curled on the sofa, watching him, a cup of tea cooling in my hands. There is no dramatic announcement to the world. There are no grand gestures. There are only the small, quiet moments that build a life. The shared smiles across a meeting room when we've communicated an entire plan with a single look. The way he brings me coffee exactly how I like it, without being asked. The peace of reading in the same room. The silence between us now a comfortable, living thing. He looks up, catching me watching him, and his frown melts into a slow, easy smile that reaches his eyes, lighting them from within. "What?" he asks. "Nothing," I say, my own smile feeling foreign and beautiful on my face. "I'm just happy." He abandons the instructions and comes to sit beside me, pulling my feet into his lap. His hands are warm on my bare skin. He doesn't say anything. He just looks at me, and in his stormy eyes I see it all reflected back. Not the boss, not the titan, but the woman. The one who is learning, finally, how to rest, how to be loved. The world outside still spins with its judgments and its noise, but in this sunlit room, with his laughter a quiet sound in the air, there is only peace after the storm. The ashes of my old rules have been swept away, and in their place, something real has taken root. Not a perfect love, but a chosen one. Steady and solid. And finally, completely ours. If this confession of forbidden love found a home in your heart, do not let the connection end. Subscribe for more stories where tension burns. Slow and love wins. Let me know you felt it too. Comment your favorite moment below, and like this to tell the algorithm you're a fellow hopeless romantic.